you look at the NFC standings, if I may call for them, and you're like viable option in the NFC. I mean, who isn't, right? I guess with all due respect to the NFC South eventual champion, who isn't? And you could even listen, I know the Packers have lost a couple in a row. All they needed was one onside kick recovery against Chicago. They have 10 wins. So do the Bears. And this is a totally different week 17 and 18 picture that we're talking about right now. Jordan Love comes back, and maybe Josh Jacobs can get healthy and stout. We see Bears Packers part 3. You never know, right? I mean, and then you look in the AFC. I started the show as well, Kurt, with our NFL Game Day morning segment that you just referenced about Cinderella staying in their carriage when the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve or turns back into a pumpkin. You and the rest of our great crew and gang together mentioned 5 other teams in addition to the Bears as being Cinderella. And I agreed with every single one of them. I can't recall the last time a playoff field was so wide open. Could you, Kurt?
No, I can't. I mean, even coming into a season, usually, our first show of Game Day morning every year, I always think, okay, there's probably 4 or 5 teams that I legitimately think could win it all. Just what you're showing right there, as you said, I'm not sure the Steelers, if they're the ones that end up representing, or Carolina, or even Tampa with the way Tampa's playing, although I would have said Tampa early in the year, just with the way they're playing. Outside of those 2 teams, I'm fully with you. I think you could make an argument for the other 6 teams on each side that they have got, legitimate teams and legitimate ways in which they could run the table and represent their side, in the Super Bowl. And I don't remember the last time where I felt that way. And so I couldn't be more excited to see how Week 18 plays out, to see who's in the dance, to see who's matched up, because that's the other thing, is that, how important is that number 1 seed, just from the standpoint is like, I don't want to play any of those wild card teams.
Of course not, because you could be one and done by them. If you could skip 1 week of the playoffs and just advance yourself to the next, that's the way to go about it. And certainly, since the first half of the season doesn't really mirror the second half of the season, and I guess the third season, the postseason, might not mirror either one of the first 2 halves either, Kurt. And a perfect example of all this is when we were in London week 7, right? We're in London week 7 getting ready to call Rams and Jaguars. And if somebody had come up to us and said, listen, the best chance to win the Super Bowl out of the AFC is going to come from the AFC South, we'd be like, wow, the Colts and Daniel Jones, you got to be kidding me. And now we just saw the Texans beat the Chargers. You and I called that game on Saturday. And the Jaguars look nothing like the team we saw walk off that field in Wembley in week 7, Kurt. Yep. Nothing. Both of those teams might be the best teams in football right now.
Yep. Yeah, no doubt. And even if you were, one of the teams that's going to win their division, I'm sure you're at home right now going, okay, do we want to be the 2nd seed? Because that means we might have to play so-and-so, or do we want to actually be the 3rd seed? Because again, it's just, I am so with you, is that those wild card teams right now are really scary. And, you feel like any one of those could represent, their side in the Super Bowl. And so you're not going to want to play them in the first round. And that's why I say that number 1 seed is so huge on both sides, is let somebody beat somebody else up and knock somebody else out before you've got to play a football game. And so, that game on Saturday between the Niners and Seattle is so huge. And then obviously, whether it's New England or Denver, punching their spot for the number 1, man, that's going to be huge for whichever 2 teams that is.
And then, with the 2-1 seeds from last year's playoffs out now, and the Lions and the Chiefs leaving the 2 top seeds from last year's playoffs playing each other yesterday in the Eagles and the Bills, if you had to put your marker on one to go on a run, do you choose Josh Allen, who doesn't appear to be fully healthy, and a defense that is balling out, better than some could have even have hoped over the last month? Or do you take an Eagles team that didn't complete a single pass in the second half yesterday, but is balling out defensively as well, but still has all the weapons on offense similar to last year's Super Bowl team? Which one do you put your marker on right now, Kurt?
Yeah, I was kind of
you could go neither as well if you want.
I know, is that I trusted, Philly's offense more. I said that yesterday on our show, just because of some of the issues they had around Josh Allen. But man, when you watch that offense, especially yesterday, I just scratch my head a lot of times on what they're doing and what they're trying to do. And, Jalen, as great as he is at times, there's times where I'm just not fully sure that I would probably right now, even though they lost yesterday, probably pick Josh Allen and company. I don't know. I mean, like you said, their defense is playing a little bit better. Their run game is good. And I trust Josh to make the play. And I know, you can say, well, how do you do that? Because he missed the play yesterday. But he doesn't miss those plays very often, and often, makes up for it with something else. And so they're just something that, they had opportunities in that game. He got tackled at the 6-inch line one time where they turned the football over, and some crazy things happened in that game. I would just say, knowing where the quarterbacks are, especially on the AFC side, I would probably lean towards Josh Allen, his experience, and that team more than the Eagles right now.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.